We are almost there, almost happy New Year. It's December 30th, and I'm very thankful for every single one of you guys tuning in over the course of the last year. We've been going at it. We have produced, I can't even tell you how many episodes in the 270, I believe, this year. And a lot of them have been Inchstones. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in and being with me. And I was just with my son the other day with a guy named Coach Brady. And Coach Brady is a phenomenal quarterback coach. He coaches some of the people down at San Diego State, a bunch of college athletes, pro athletes, and even down to high school. And he's working with my son at 13 years old. And we walked out there, and Coach Brady, the first thing that he said, he was very strong with Maddox, and he said to him, he said, you got to get excited about getting bored, about being bored. And I was like, wait, I mean, I know Coach Brady, and I know he's the best. And but I sat in and I waited for what this actually meant. And he said, you got to get excited about being bored, because you're going to be bored a lot with the repetition of the things that we do and the foundational things that we do that get you ready for the circumstances and the battles that you're going to go into. And he said, those are going to be the things that are going to separate you from the normal. That's going to be in the times of battle and the times on the field and the times of distress. Those little things that you'll get bored doing are going to be the things that take you to victory and that will separate you from all the rest. And I was so blown away. I was so inspired by him. And I watched my son, and I watched him do all the little things, just the tiny things, the grip strength, the way that he moved his elbow, the way that he shifted his hips, all these things that when he thought of quarterback camp or working with a one-on-one with an elite quarterback coach, he thought he would be throwing routes. He thought he would be throwing, long bombs or out routes and all these things. And that's the way that I had been thinking in my life. And God brought me right back to the foundational things. And when I was reading Proverbs 30 today, it encourages us. It encourages us this repetitious learning, because there are battles on the horizon that will demand it. And in Proverbs 30, it takes us through that and gets us ready with this repetitious learning. And my pops would always say this. He said, there's two ways to learn: instant shock, repetitious learning. Instant shock, repetitious learning. And what I learned from Coach Brady the other day was that repetitious learning and getting excited about being bored are going to be the things that help me to experience the exciting things that I want to see. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Happy almost New Year's. Happy New Year almost. I'm so excited to be back in the podcast room with you today, and to be here in the studio. And it's just been unbelievable. Been having so many great conversations. Also, too, every single one of you, if you're listening right now and you're not subscribed on Substack, check in the bio. Go ahead and do that. You get all the production notes. I'm actually doing a newsletter in my handwritten newsletter of wisdom and encouragement, and it's the production notes. So a lot of times we cover a ton of information. And when people told me this at first, they told me that whenever you're doing something, you can only ever give people 3 points because they can't consume anymore. But I believe that you can. I believe in every single one of you. We did this with our flag football team the other day, and one of my friends was telling me they can only, consume 3 plays. And we had a playbook, and we had 9 plays in it. And the kids honestly ran through them, and they did them multiple times. And it was because their capacity got expanded. We challenged them to it. But, there's, again, a lot of information that we go through, and join us on Substack and subscribe there. It would mean the world to me. But my newsletter every single week is, a handwritten note of wisdom and encouragement. So I would love for you guys to be there. This is another episode of Inchstones. If this is the first time you're tuning into the podcast, we've got a couple different shows. We have an interview show where I interview some of the most iconic people in the world. They give advice to my kids by name. And we also have a show that is called You Have to Meet My Friends, where I go live and I call my friends randomly. They don't know they're on the podcast till they're on the podcast. And then we have this, which is Inchstones. So you could take this on your walk, in the morning. It's a little food for your soul and food for thought. And that food for thought came from Coach Brady Performance. If you haven't checked it out, you need to check him out. I'll do a little link too, so you can check him. But he is an unbelievable human being and incredible coach. And when he said to my son the other day, he said, "You got to get excited about getting bored." I was a little bit confused. I was like, I don't want to be bored. You're supposed to entertain. You're supposed to entertain these kids. They're supposed to have fun, all these things. But he said, honestly, if we're going to work together, and you're going to be, the only way that we're going to work together is if you will commit to being excited about being bored, because I'm not going to commit to work with you if you're not willing to do the things that it'll take to be able to lay a foundation for you to be great. And so it was like, right off the bat, this, coach says it to my son, and my son looks at him and he's like, I'm in. And then I asked him afterwards, do you, is this the coach that you want to work? He said, yes, absolutely. I want to work on those things. And it's incredible when we start to work on those things, but we have to have a little bit of a backstory with it. And, Proverbs 30 encourages this repetitious learning, because there are battles on the horizon that will demand it. You see, every one of us, especially as the year ends, if the year on the year ending, you're probably cleaning out stuff. You're purging and then getting ready for the new, and you're going to make goals and you're going to write them down. And then you're going to have those goals for maybe 2 weeks, and you're all going to get a gym membership. I'm probably going to get one too. And then by the end of February, you'll be donating to the gym, because you won't be going, but you'll still be paying. And we're going to do all these things. We're going to get ourselves prepared. But why not take and look at and say, like, let's build a foundation. Let's build a foundation that we can build anything on. And so, as I went through Proverbs 30 today, it was incredible, because it was a wealth of wisdom, although it wasn't the shiny things. So in verse 1 through 4, this is what I took from it. So I'll paraphrase the stuff, and, but I would encourage you to read Proverbs 30, read the corresponding proverb, corresponding day. You don't have to, like I'm, doing it here and, kind of giving a synopsis, but I would encourage you to read it yourself and to dive into it. You'll read the word, then the word will read you. It'll be amazing. So in verse 1 through 4, no matter who you are, you will weary at some point, and that is where muscle memory will kick in. See, this is what Coach Brady was talking about the other day. He was wanting my son to get to a point where his muscle memory of throwing the ball, gripping the ball, the way his hips were, the way his feet were, that when he got weary, which he would by the fourth quarter, the third quarter, the second quarter, depending on how the game is going, that your muscle memory would kick in. And it's not going to be the things that you intend to do. It's going to be the things that you practice over and over and over again. And this goes back to a prophet named Mike Tyson that said, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the mouth. When you get punched in the mouth, your muscle memory goes back into play. And so how can we train whatever job you're in, whatever career you're in, whatever relationship, how can we train to be able to have a foundation that way when the battle that we're not in right now, that we're about to go into, that we can't even see, that's on the horizon, that we'll be prepared for? Because preparation, meeting opportunity equals success, right? And so most of the time, when we go into a scenario, like I was talking with a woman today, I just got a chance to be able to see her and meet her as a new guest, and got to chat with her, and she's, started her own business. And I said, what about the administrative side? Because most of the time when we go into a business, the tactical side is something that we know. That's the reason why we went into that business in the first place. So as far as tactical, say for instance, with myself, I got in the professional beauty industry. I started cutting hair 30 years ago. And so when I did, I knew how to do that technical aspect. But when I opened a business, it was a completely different skill set. And so I was very fortunate because, a lot of my clients were owners of the Mandalay Bay and, C-suite, C-level of the Mandalay corporations. And so they all helped me and put their infrastructure in place for me, which was unbelievable. And it allowed me to build a foundation of my business where I was able to just do the tactical parts. But most of the time, we think that the tactical parts are the foundation. That's not, especially in business. In business, it's going to be all the boring stuff, like what Coach was talking about, that make the business successful. The tactical is on top of that. So I would just be conscious of this as we go along. So in verse 5 and 6, truth doesn't need a multitude of words. I'll just leave that one there because that one, it reminded me of my buddy Baron Baptiste. He said that in a documentary that he did. But in verse 5 and 6 of Proverbs 30, written 30,000 years ago, it said the same exact thing. Truth doesn't need a multitude of words. In verse 7 through 9, too much and too little cause challenges, so adjust accordingly. So watch this, like when you have excess in your business, in your relationship, all those things, sometimes you could get sloppy. When you have too little, sometimes you get desperate. So adjust accordingly and make sure that you have just enough so you don't lose sight and get sloppy, or that you don't get desperate and do things outside of your character. In verse 10 through 12, silly talk makes great people look silly. This one hurts, right? And silly talk makes great people look silly, and most of the time do silly things. So be conscious of this. Be conscious of the things that you say and the things that you say around people. It doesn't mean that you have to walk on eggshells, anything like that. But, gossiping about somebody, things like that, just silly things, saying silly things makes a great person look silly. And in verse 13, 14, and 17, what you see and say will greatly impact your outcome. So it's not just about what is in front of you. It's about your perspective, your vantage point. So your vantage point, your perspective will determine your perception. So whatever vantage point you see something from will determine how you perceive it or how you accept it. How I see it will be how I accept it. So I could take the exact same thing. If you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on Spotify and you're watching a video, you see my microphone, but you see the back of my microphone. I see the front of my microphone. It's the same microphone. It's just two different vantage points. We accept it different based off of where we're standing. So it's not about changing our circumstances. Sometimes it's just about changing the vantage point from which we see it, which will change the way in which we accept it. But what you see and what you say will greatly impact your outcome. Be conscious of your words. Speak life to everybody. Speak life to every single situation. And look at things through a lens that is the greatest possible scenario will come out of this particular situation. These hit me hard this morning. And in verse 15 and 16, contribute always. It works out. It always works out to contribute. Any environment, any person, contribute to them. That's actually true kindness. Kindness is from contribution. Being nice is out of obligation. So just be conscious of those things also. From verse 18 through 20, fly too high to be impacted, work your strengths, prepare for battle, and know your limits. Those ones, again, think of that. Fly too high to be impacted in your business, in your relationships, in your culture. Then when you're building a culture inside of your business, fly too high to be impacted. Be that person that when you come in, you're flying at such a level that you can't really be impacted. Work your strengths. Don't try and work somebody else's. Prepare for battle. Prepare for the things that haven't arose yet. Imagine if you're just a person starting off a business right now and you just have you right now. But someday it could grow to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. What if you set yourself up for you having 16 locations when you only have 1? And if you never get there, it doesn't matter because you're prepared. But if you get there and you're not prepared, then guess what? You don't get the opportunity. So prepare for battle and then just know your limits. Know the things that are going to take you off a track. In verse 21 through 23, prepare for the best possible scenario. People always talk about prepare for the worst. I think prepare for the best. Like, look at what you ultimately want and then just put your actions in line with those things. And if we could start to do that little bit by little bit, we could change things. And it's amazing that 3,000 years ago, this wisdom was telling us to do it. But it won't be something like, imagine preparing for something that hasn't come yet, that you don't see on the horizon. Those things aren't going to be super excited. They're not going to be super exciting. They're going to be the things that make you bored. But when you're bored, like Coach Brady said, when you work on being bored, you get excited about being bored. When you get in the heat of the battle and the victory is at your fingertips, you're going to be able to step up and into that situation because you're going to be prepared. In verse 24 through 28, slow and steady, there's power in numbers, self-discipline, head down, work hard, master your craft. The world will find you. Let me say it again. Think of this. In verse 24 through 28, it gave us the blueprint really for any business, for any relationship, for any friendship. Slow and steady wins the race. There's power in numbers. Self-discipline will always pay off. Keep your head down, work hard, master your craft, because the world will find masters. I want to encourage you right now. If you're working hard on your craft and nobody's seeing it, I want to encourage you because it's coming. Your audience is already formed, but they're waiting for you to show up and play your own music. In verse 30 through 33, work your land diligently, peacefully, with humility. Know who is in control, and everything will be cool. Let me say it again. Work your land diligently. I believe this is speaking right to my heart and where I'm at in my life. Work your land diligently, peacefully, with humility. Know who's in control and everything will be cool. I just kept thinking of Pulp Fiction when I said everything will be cool. When Bruce Willis was telling his lady, everything will be cool. And what God is telling us today is just everything will be cool, but work your land diligently, peacefully, with humility, and know who's in control, and that's him. And everything will be cool. Most of the time, we're saving our reaction for the results that we ultimately want. But the truly wise will get really excited about being bored. I want to thank you, Coach Brady, for inspiring me. Coach Doug Brady, Brady Performance, you're an absolute genius. I love you, my man. And I thank you for, coaching and mentoring my son. It means the world to me. I love all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Inchstones. If you like this, you'll love the playlist of Inchstones, and you'll love the interviews that we do with some of the most iconic people in the world. Brandon Glade, this guy is amazing. You need to check him out. He went from a drug addict to 3 terms in prison to now training some of the top athletes in the entire world. We just had him on. We have some of the most iconic people in the world doing that. You'll meet my friends when I call them randomly and have them on the podcast. You'll love that also, and you'll love the Substack. Make sure that you subscribe to that. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been another episode of Inchstones. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got 2 shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to